right, the channel is live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Watching 100 Movies. I'm Christiana Ellis,
I'm Mike Mateen.
and tonight we are kicking off, at last, our 2026 Oscar movie marathon. Yay!
Yay.
Um, because we are subject to the ups and downs of real life, we're starting this a little bit later than we might typically do, but that's how real life goes. But
Yes. And as I'm learning, real life with a 8-month-old
that'll do
changes.
it. That's one of the classic ones.
Yes. Changes timing and priorities
Mm-hmm.
and
It's maybe worth noting that, we said last time that we were going to watch, we picked four movies to watch, which was crazy ambitious. I don't know what we were thinking, choosing four movies to watch over the holidays. But in any case, it's Oscar time, so we're going to do that instead. Maybe we'll go back to those other movies eventually. But for now, Oscars.
Oscars.
So, as has been, so maybe just quick brief on how we do this for folks who have not joined us for these before. This is a little bit like the short version. We're trying to see as many of the nominated movies as we can during Oscar season. It's a little bit like golf in the sense that we are not competing with one another, but just each of us trying within our own circumstances to see more than we might have otherwise.
Yes. I
Um,
appreciate you saying that because I think in the 15 years that we've done this or whatever, I don't think I've ever won.
well, we're not keeping score, but it's certainly true that like we both have a percentage on the spreadsheet that we've got. But you I don't have an 8-month old for one,
Yeah.
so things like that. But in
Well,
any
yeah. My
case,
goal is usually to try to I had been getting like 75%. And
hmm
then life circumstances happened and I had dropped kind of below 50. And then more recently, I've been able to get back up to this at least two-thirds, right?
hmm
And so
hmm
that's kind of
I was
my
just going to
goal
say
to
we
see
could pull up the
two-thirds of the
sheet
nominees.
from
Yeah.
last year to see what you finished with. You finished with 50% last year. You
Right.
just got over that.
And
Um,
that was, yeah, that was my wife was pregnant then,
hmm
so it also
Yeah,
changed
yeah.
some things. But
uh,
hey, plus 50% means I saw
oh,
more than
yeah,
half of the nominations.
absolutely, yeah.
So,
And so we have in the past kicked off our marathon by actually just going through all of the nominees. We're not going to do that. People, you can find the list of nominees all over the place. So we're just going to jump straight to the other part, which is that when there is a movie that we have both seen, we talk about it and we will get into spoilers. So before we jump into the specific movies, though, I the uh, just as a general high level, I had seen 8 of the 10 Best Picture nominees before the awards were announced, and so it's sometimes it's because I've seen that many movies, and other times it's because I just happen to have guessed the right ones through the year. But I've actually now managed to see all of them. But what was your like? So you had, I think you had seen two of them before the awards, and now
yes,
you've seen three.
3. Yes.
But like just big picture take, best picture nominees. When you saw the list, what did you think?
Uh, uh, this actually feels like a pretty good list. I mean, of the movies that I'd seen, I really enjoyed them. And I thought they had value to it. The one that I've seen since, which is Sinners,
Mm-hmm.
um, I had heard really good things about. And I'd also some of the ones I haven't seen, like I had seen good reviews. I had seen like it everything on here felt like to me like it belonged. Uh, but I don't there's some I don't know that much about, but they just
Mm-hmm.
seem to have the cachet of like what should be on here. Um, so I felt good about it. I don't really know unless did you feel differently or
No, I felt largely the same. I think the one movie that I had sort of hoped would get more, well, I guess there were two movies that I sort of hoped would have gotten more nominations and then ended up with zero, which is No Other Choice, which is the latest Park Chan-wook movie
mm,
from Korea, which I really liked. And then also 28 Years Later, um, over the summer from Danny Boyle, I thought was incredible. And it was so surprising to me. It was so much different than I would have guessed that it would be. And I thought it was really great. It was kind of, I would have put it in like a top five for the year for me. And so for it to just get zero really sort of surprised me.
yeah, I think that's I hadn't thought of that one, but now that you bring it up, that's a really good point. I just think I hadn't considered it a movie that would get into the nomination, so I didn't really
Mhm.
worry too much about it. But yeah, I also really enjoyed that movie.
I think one of the things that's maybe interesting about it is that before seeing it, the movie you assume it is, sure, yeah, why would that? You wouldn't expect that to get a lot of Oscar nominations. Maybe some craft ones, if that. But then the movie it actually is, I feel like really maybe did deserve some. But that's how it goes.
Yeah, I I hadn't thought that, but after you point that out, I do agree with you. I think that
Hmm.
I would have liked to see some of that. Yeah.
Yeah. But I was, certainly I was happy to see K-pop Demon Hunters in there for animated feature. Although I think they would have been insane not to put it in there just because of what a phenomenon it became. Um, or maybe I should even say it has become.
Yes, I have not seen it,
Mm.
but I do volunteer in the third through sixth grade church, and every kid in third through sixth grade talks about this movie.
It's
So
great, is why. So
I've heard that as well. I've heard that this is one, and that's why I think it's interesting because it's like at first when like I heard all these kids at church talking about demon hunters, I was like, okay. And then I realized, no, it's actually a really good movie with good
mhm,
values and good and very interesting and entertaining and like it's
yeah.
worth letting your kids watch it.
And I
Yeah.
feel like if we're going to hold it, well, we might actually talk more about it in detail, but I would say at a high level, it's like if we're going to hold the story to really high standards, I think there are some nitpicks you could make about it thematically and plot wise and so on. But what it has got is incredible music and style to spare, and it is just super charming.
Yes.
It's great.
That is one I will definitely see along with Zootopia 2. Those
Zootopia
are some
2, also good.
yes, those are two guarantees.
All right, great. So I think then we had kind of discussed that we would start our deep dive discussions with One Battle After Another and Sinners. So once again, as a warning, we are going to talk about spoilers for each of these. So just know that going in, and let's get to it. So should we start with? Well, I guess if we went by chronological order in terms of release, it would be Sinners first. Do you have a preference which one to talk about first?
Nope.
All right. Well,
I
let's do One
I
Battle
enjoy
After
both.
Another because I have it first on the title. It's I guess first alphabetically.
Yes.
Yeah. So One Battle After Another. It is Paul Thomas Anderson's latest movie. No stranger to Oscar nominations. Paul Thomas Anderson, and it was the second highest number of nominations received this year after Sinners. So it had 13 nominations. That's quite a lot. Um, just to run those down, obviously it was Best Picture, Best Director, Leonardo DiCaprio for Best Actor, Benicio del Toro and Sean Penn both for Best Supporting Actor. Um, Best Supporting Actress, we have Tiana Taylor. Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Original Score, best production design, best cinematography, best sound, best editing, best casting. That's all of them. I didn't count to 13, but it should be right. So did you see this when it was sort of an original release, or did you catch it later?
I caught it later. I had heard awesome things about it. I have some friends that are really into going to movies, and I had some friends that went and saw it in the theater like 3 times. I just, with life, didn't catch it until I was able to watch it on at home. But I mean, I absolutely love this movie. I
Mm-hmm.
think this is, and I think you'll probably agree, like this is Paul Thomas Anderson at his best, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like taking like it has all the things that are like he's kind of known for, right? Like with the sort of oddball humor situations, but yet really powerful story, taking a well-known actor and playing them against type, like things that he's done successfully in other movies. Like this kind of just harnesses all of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's how I felt, at least. I absolutely loved watching Leonardo DiCaprio play like a stoner dad. It was just it 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 had so many just like easy, soft like laughs without having to be like over the top. Like it doesn't have to be like, Will Ferrell type humor, right? Like
Right,
but
right.
it's as funny, if not funnier, right? Because
Yeah,
it plays it so straight, but it's because he's so against type that it just you you just get this humor that comes out of him being and owning this character,
right. Yeah,
right?
like nobody's telling jokes. It's just
Right.
that the humor arises very naturally and organically from the situation and the characters.
Yes.
Yeah, it is very funny, but that it's like to some degree, obviously, it's using that to like build suspension and then comic relief, but like it's also just often very funny without losing that tension, because certainly there are parts of it that are very serious too. Like, so I was there opening night for this one because I'm kind of a Paul Thomas Anderson sicko, I think. I think, if I were like, of his movies, I might still personally have Magnolia as like a sentimental favorite, but it's unquestionable that that movie is kind of messy. I think this is from a craft standpoint, I think this one is better in that regard. But if you factor in the things like the mindset that I was in personally when I saw Magnolia back when that came out in what, 27 years ago.
Yeah.
Um,
But that was like, I think to your point, the sentimental part is
mhm,
it's like your first exposure to like how his humor and how his like how his director construction and like storytelling works,
mhm,
right? Like, and it also had a character who played against type, right?
yeah,
That was, something that we hadn't seen a lot of before. To
mhm.
take Tom Cruise and make him into the, you know, and it was the same way. Like he
Proto
was such a over,
manosphere,
yeah, over the
yeah,
top, like whatever you call, like influencer, different.
yeah,
It's not really that at the time, but and to have him play it so dead straight, but also having like all of this emotion and real life around it, like, and like to your point, like of
mhm,
the ebb and flow of the seriousness, the tension,
mhm.
but
Well,
yet
so
also the
I,
comic
I love
relief. Yeah.
Magnolia. I could talk about Magnolia all night, but
Well, I'm using it to kind
okay,
of
yeah, go ahead then. I'm sorry.
bridge us back into
Yeah,
this,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
Like Magnolia had a lot of those things, and then this really, I just think, just absolutely pumped it up. It's also very relevant to the times,
mhm.
and I think that was interesting, right? About how it doesn't overtly comment on anything, but yet there's
Yeah,
enough in there.
it
Yeah.
it does an incredible job at feeling like a knockout from a glancing blow, right? Like
Hmm.
there's nothing that's one for one, and yet it makes its case very clearly.
Yes. It's not
um,
ambiguous, yeah,
yeah.
but it's not
Um,
overt.
but
It's
so and
weird. Yeah.
yeah, but I was also one of the people that saw it three times in the theater. Partly, I might not have three times, but I loved it enough that I was happy to do that. But what happened is I first saw it in like regular theater. But then I was thinking, oh, you know what? This is one that's in IMAX, and I loved it so much. Maybe I will find a proper IMAX theater and see it that way too. And then I did. And then after that, I realized that the Coolidge Corner Theater in Boston was one of only like two or three theaters in the whole world where it was showing in VistaVision, which is like this special format. Um, and so I was like, well, I, I guess I have to go see it a third time. And the truth is, I was really glad I did for two reasons. One is that it looked incredible. Um, but the other was that I discovered that the Coolidge Corner Theater is really awesome. It was a movie theater that I had actually not really been aware of because I often will buy movie tickets through Fandango and it's not listed in Fandango. So I just never like saw the showtimes there. But they do all sorts of special repertory screenings and stuff too. They're like a nonprofit indie movie theater and it's really cool inside and so yeah.
Nice.
So I discovered that too. But yeah, I really loved this movie as well. And I just so it was very clear to me as soon as I saw it that like yeah, this is absolutely one of my favorites of the year, if not longer. It's great. Um, so shall we like? I think it certainly makes its sort of intentions known just right away with like Teyana Taylor scoping out an internment camp or like immigrant detainment camp, right?
Yep.
um, and I think that it's a fascinating structure that like the first half hour of the movie it's just like let's focus on this character Perfidia Beverly Hills and like this complicated awesome, sometimes scary, sometimes irresponsible, sometimes we're not sure how we feel about her way, but just this really powerful character, and we spend half an hour with her before she leaves the movie entirely as far as being on screen, but then her legacy sort of just coloring everything that comes after.
Yes. I I mean, I agree with you. I don't really know what more to say. Like what?
Well, I think maybe one of the other things that strikes me when we're talking about like the reason I say like it's a glancing blow, it's not one to one, is like is in the time period it's taking place in is a little bit unclear, right?
Right.
Like there are some details here and there, like we know it's not like the 70s, but there are parts of it that are a little bit like the 70s. And then it's we actually get some voiceover narration that even though obviously our sort of opening half hour takes place 16 years before the rest of the movie because the daughter grows up in that time, but it's sort of made clear that things aren't really that different.
Right.
um and so there's like little details here and there, but mostly it's kind of the same. It's not only the same issues that you're dealing with, but in some cases it's literally the same people. And thus we have Lockjaw played by Sean Penn in an incredible performance.
Yes. He's very good in this.
Yeah,
I
his
I
walk.
mean, yeah, I mean he plays this colonel who's,
Mm-hmm.
you know, uh, both obsessed with anti-immigration but also has like this
Mm-hmm.
secret-ish crush on Perfidia or what Teyana Taylor.
He
and a
loves black
relationship.
girls. He makes
Yeah,
this
he
very
loves
clear.
black girls. Yeah, he makes it very clear that like he has this fetish for black girls, but this, determination to,
Right.
be an anti-immigrant. And yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, he, I mean, what is he? He basically coerces her into sex the first time,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Well, so like
And
I mean, because it starts, of course, with her taking him prisoner in the camp and kind of doming him, right?
yes,
Like it's clear that he is turned on by having her be in control and
right.
ordering him around and stuff, right? And so, but like then, and it's clear too, like when he sort of coerces her later into sex, he's still wanting her to do that to him, right?
Yes,
Like he's basically telling her, so he tracks her down because he's obsessed. He doesn't tell anybody he's doing this. It's for his own personal in
pleasure. Yeah.
intentions. And so he basically says like, I know you're still out here committing crimes and I don't care, but if you will do this for me, I will not report you. And so she feels like, and we get some nuance there because I don't think we at any point get the sense that she is happy about that exactly, but we do get the sense that she does also still kind of get off on it, right? She likes dominating him in those scenarios, even though obviously it's messy, the second time because it's a question of like, well, if you are extorting someone into doming you, that seems that the power dynamics of that are complicated.
Yes.
Um,
But I think her character is very clear in her motives,
hmm,
which well, I guess maybe not so because like you're saying, there's a sort of like she also gets off on this, but like
mm-hmm,
she's almost like able to discard this stuff and
mm-hmm,
like she's really all about the revolutionary activities and whatever
mm-hmm,
furthers that she's good with,
yeah.
right?
Well,
That's
I think that that's largely true, but I think what makes her such sort of a fascinating character is her refusal to ever be exactly what you expect, right? Because
yep.
there's an element where, like for all, when, so we meet her, she's doing this, freeing all the people from this detainment camp. And we meet Leonardo DiCaprio's character as her boyfriend, who's the explosives expert. He's part of the crew. Um, and, they're she is clearly turned on by his explosives expertise. She finds that very exciting. There's a funny early moment where um, he has just set a bomb timer and she's wanting to sleep with like have sex with him just like right there and he's like no 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 we actually have to run right now.
Yeah,
And and all that stuff is great, but then of course when she gets pregnant, now it's kind of complicated because one way to look at this would be like even before she gives birth, we have these moments where Leonardo DiCaprio's character is looking to some of the other members of their little cell and just kind of saying like she is not dealing with the emotional reality of being pregnant and getting ready to have a kid.
right.
She is acting like there's nothing different and nothing will change.
I can tell you that's not true.
Oh, that
Even,
well,
even,
that in
even when you're
fact
not a
things will
revolutionary,
change. Yes.
yeah,
Well,
even when you're not a revolutionary,
yeah,
things change.
right.
Yeah.
So in any case, it's just like it's clear even before she gives birth that like her feelings about that are obviously complicated, right? Like because on the one hand, we could imagine that like if she felt like she wanted to have an abortion, I don't think anyone would have stopped her. It's not like they make it clear at all that she can't for some reason, right? So like she could have made another choice, but I think that just that indicates the ambivalence about it, right?
Right.
Is that she seems to be approaching this as maybe there's a little bit of the whole like career woman, like I can have it all sort of attitude there, right? Like she's thinking, well, I'm not going to let this stop me from fighting the revolution. And everyone else is like, well, you might have to let it stop you a little bit at least.
Yeah.
um, but at the same time, it's like when she decides to leave and leave the daughter with um, Bob. I guess Bob is the new name, right? I don't remember what his what it was before.
I have it up. It's Pat.
Pat. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, Ghetto Pat, I think is the nickname.
Yep, Ghetto
Um,
Pat Calhoun.
yeah. So in any case, when she is deciding to sneak out and leave him with the baby, she gives kind of a whole little blustery speech about how this is really all about like she's going to go out and keep fighting the revolution elsewhere. But I think that we're meant to kind of understand that while there might be some truth in that, it does feel like running away also, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, but this is also tied into we get the sense that there's some postpartum depression going on. She's also just seems like she is the kind of person that is sort of I was about to say pathologically, but that's probably more aggressive a term than what I mean. She is temperamentally unused to asking for help or getting help from anybody to do anything. She thinks of herself as self-sufficient and always able to do everything for herself, and suddenly this idea that she doesn't know how to do this, she can't do it by herself because there's inherently another person involved, not even just the father but the baby themselves, right? Like it's scary in a way that she doesn't know how to control, and that feels like that's part of what's going on when she decides to leave.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
Yeah. And then, of course, we watch that even as she has gone off to do these other things, that she is getting a little unhinged, even by the standards of her revolutionary self.
Right, which is what ultimately ends up in her getting arrested,
Mm-hmm.
and then Lockjaw comes back into the picture. She
Let's,
has to like, oh,
yeah.
sorry.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, but what I
I
was
was
going
just
to,
trying to, I was sort
yeah,
of just trying to expediting the plot, but no,
yeah.
if we want to talk more, go ahead. Yeah.
What I was just going to say is that there is sort of a critical moment that we specifically don't see because I think it's like deliberate that we don't see it, but just to ask the question that the movie asks by not showing us is we see like we're watching this bank robbery in progress and then we hear the gunshot. She has already shot the guard like in the leg. And then he's trying to crawl towards his gun and she's saying, don't, stop. And then so she kills him for that. But we don't know why she shot him the first time. And I think we're left to kind of wonder a little bit. And it's implied that none of her rest of her crew saw what happened either. But there's this sort of question of like, did he try to draw his gun and that's why she had to shoot him and like there wouldn't have been any other choice? Or do we think that she maybe overreacted, she got trigger happy, she shot him when she didn't need to?
Yeah.
You
No, I
think
think
the
that's important. I think it's purposely, I mean, it
mm-hmm.
doesn't show it, I think, on purpose,
Right, yeah.
because because what ends up happening with her character is that she becomes, like you talked about,
Mm-hmm.
she becomes more of a myth and a legend
Mm-hmm.
after this part of the movie, right? Not only amongst the revolutionaries, but amongst her daughter and
Mm-hmm.
her daughter's father, who isn't the actual biological father,
Yeah.
spoiler, but which I also think is one of the sweetest parts of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I I think this is a key to your point. It's a key piece in building this sort of legend of who is Charlene, and
Mm-hmm.
or not, sorry, Charlene's the daughter, Perfidia, um, and what really happened. You know, where is she
Mm-hmm.
really? Like all these kinds of things. Like it starts to get really blurry here.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
said, we don't see why she shoots him. We see her then give up all of her friends, goes into witness protection, but
Mm-hmm.
flees. She's in Mexico. Is she writing letters? Is she not?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's this really mythological piece about her that's kind of launched with that
Yeah.
scene. So that's good that you called out that scene. That's a good one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We get just first of all like the first of our incredible car chase sequences, right, with the them trying to escape from the botched bank job, and then her on foot. But yeah, so we watch. She absolutely does give up her accomplices, and some of them get killed. Presumably others are because like Lockjaw just like doesn't even try to arrest some of them. He's just literally shooting them in the head without warning. Um, and part of this, of course, is because he's not actually interested in putting anyone on trial. His whole thing is that he's eliminating anybody else that she knows so that she's stuck with him is the idea, right?
Right.
Um, and I think it's not 100% clear if she specifically names Pat, right? Because we don't see her name Pat. He certainly goes on the run. We get the impression that he's like a known quantity to them. I think, but again, it's like we don't see her naming names, and they do get away, right? So
Yeah.
we wonder. That's another just thing is like, does she actually give his name or not? We don't know. But I mean, all of this like uncertainty is all part of what makes her this mystery. Like, because on the one hand, some of the characters later try to say, "Oh no, she was a rat. That means she's awful. There, you know, she was a rat, and you're the daughter of a rat, right? That some of that sort of thing. But is
Hmm.
that really as simple as that? Is that all she was, right? And what does that mean? How do we feel about her is a question that lingers, kind of haunts the whole rest of the movie.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's a worthy nomination for Tiana Taylor to be nominated for Best Supporting Actress. She kind of defines the tone of everything else that follows. Is all she
Well, because
starts the
everything else,
ball
yeah, is
rolling.
everything else is a reaction to
Mm-hmm.
her choices in the first 30 to 45 minutes of the movie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that there was some discussion before the nominations came out to wonder if Chase Infinity as the daughter might have also gotten a nomination in this category, but you know, she's probably
I
got
thought she
time.
was great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's great. Yeah, and she has a lot to do. It's a big role, right? Like she's got a lot going on in this. Um,
Well, and the majority of her screen time is with Leonardo DiCaprio. Like
mhm,
that's and to be able to hold your own in that scenario, like that's pretty good.
mhm,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, so I think then of course Pat goes on the run with baby Charlene, and now they are Bob and what was it like
Willa.
Willa
Willa.
Ferguson, yeah. Um, and so she has now grown up. She's a teenager, and she knows her dad as the paranoid guy who always thinks the government's out to get him, and she mostly thinks that that's all pretty silly. But at the same time, I think it is a really fun energy that we know that he's right, but also she's right that he is paranoid and kind of silly.
Well, and it adds to the humor and the silliness,
Yeah.
but also the understanding of like why he's doing it. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's a stoner, right? So
Yeah.
Like he's getting high all the time because
Mhm.
he's trying to like calm himself down from all these paranoid thoughts, and it only makes it worse.
Mhm.
And he's 100% right, but yeah, like you said, the energy is great, which is why I was pointing out, like, for her to play off of Leonardo DiCaprio playing against type, right?
Mhm.
Like he's this long-haired paranoid stoner with this daughter that he's like, got all the trackers and all this stuff that
Mhm.
he makes her take everywhere, and her like trying to like, you know, stand up to her dad, but humor her dad. Like, I
Mhm.
mean, it's just the whole interaction is so sweet but
Yeah.
funny and also
Like
advances the story. Like, it's
it's
all
clear
really,
she
really good. Yeah.
loves him even as she's kind of exasperated by him.
Yes.
Um and I think it's good comedy in the sense that at the same time that it's heightened for narrative reasons, it's also very much like common teenage girl and her father dynamics, right? it's he is doing the sort of almost cliche overprotective father stuff, and it just so happens that we know it's because the government actually does want to get him and they are literally in hiding even if she doesn't actually realize it.
Right.
Um and so Um, so we get great stuff there. But we also see, like you were saying, that he's become a stoner. He's not kept up, right? For all the fact that we know that he really was in this revolutionary cell, they really are in hiding. There really is danger. It's not like he's kept himself in tip top shape, which of course creates one of the big conflicts in like this next act, which is that when the government shows up to get him again, um, he can't remember all the code phrases he needs.
Right. To get himself out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, and I think the all of the Comrade Josh stuff, where he's, you know, you know, what time is it? Well, it's and the this idea that there's these complex layered code phrases that they have to give, and the fact that the guy on the phone is being super petty about it. Like, on the one hand, you could actually read it from a perspective of like, well, they operational security is important. You know what I mean? It's like how do you know? But at the same time, Bob's pointing at us like, you just called me. You know that I have reason to talk to you guys. You just called my house and I'm trying to I had 3 of the 4, and because I don't remember the 4th one, you're making me like run around trying to charge a borrowed cell phone in the back of a convenience store. um and all that stuff is great, but I think what's amazing about how the sort of old-fashioned, almost bureaucratic structures of his old revolutionary cell, the French 75, is contrasted so neatly with the very comparatively chill, community focused stuff that Sensei has got going on, right?
Also a great character.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. Benicio del Toro in this movie is just like a revelation. I mean, like we knew Benicio del Toro was great, but I mean, just this character is amazing. I think they've said in some interviews that Benicio del Toro himself is basically to be credited with who this character is. That like the script was relatively different, and it was really his idea to just say, no, I think this guy's just like, he's not phased by anything that happens. He does not react to Bob's energy. He does not get flustered or upset. This is all just ordinary weeknight stuff for him. And I think that's great because that energy is so fun throughout of Leonardo DiCaprio just fully freaking out as Bob, And that just paired with, it's like, no, no, you can't stay down here. I didn't even bring you up here with, like, I'm going to introduce you to my family before I take you to the back room where you can charge your phone. And then just like listening to him on the phone is just like, they got you on, phone passwords. Oh, that's lame, you know, and all of that great stuff. And like, so that whole, I think that might be my favorite sequence, which is, like going, meeting up with Sensei, the whole thing with the phone, having to escape the building, all the while where, he's, Sensei is moving all of these, people that he's got to another site so they won't get arrested. And it's all just happening sort of like seriously, but casually.
Yeah.
And then that incredible stunt shot where I'm sure there's got to be an explainer now on how they did it online somewhere, but where we watch what appears to be Leonardo DiCaprio try to jump from one building to another, hit a tree, fall down through the tree to land on the ground, get up, walk towards the camera, we see it's definitely him, and then try to walk around the corner where he immediately gets tased and falls on his face, right? Like, obviously they did not have Leonardo DiCaprio fall off a 3-story building through a tree, right? But it's a single shot, so there's some cool stunt work and effects going on in there.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really cool shot.
Yes, and it's funny in a dark way,
Mm-hmm.
But there's a number of pieces of dark humor in this, and
Mm-hmm.
like I think as we get to the end, there's also some very dark humor.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, it's like we haven't even brought up yet the Christmas Adventurers Club.
that's where I was going.
Yeah,
Is
yeah. Go. So
yeah,
go ahead.
the Christmas Adventurers Club. So of course, parallel to all of this is
Mm-hmm.
Lockjaw, just crushing anti-immigration to the point where he is invited to join a secret society of white supremacists called the Christmas Adventurers Club.
Mm-hmm.
And that leads him to become paranoid about his sexual relationship
Mm-hmm.
with Perfidia, and the potential that Willa could be his child,
Right.
not
Right.
Bob's, and him not wanting that to ruin his, white supremacy like inauguration.
And part of what's kind of an amazing nuance to that is that he doesn't actually even believe any of that. He likes black girls. He said so. He made it very clear.
Yes, he just
And
wants to
we
be a part of that.
see
Yeah.
the part where he has to basically deny that there's ever been any of that kind of relationship. We see how upset he is walking out of that because he doesn't believe it, but he has to fake it that he does so that he can be in their stupid club. And it's just like, why, man? You don't even like and it's just like the cognitive dissonance that must be going on in this guy's head has just cooked his brain.
Yeah, because I think at that point, I think is that when he hires the hitman to kill her to
Yeah.
eliminate the
Well, like
evidence. Yeah,
it's sort of all part of this continuum, right? Because
yeah,
he doesn't hire the he we see that he's worked with this guy before, right? Because we this is the same guy who captures the goat, the guy who does the radio stuff earlier on, right? But so once he has confirmed that Willa is his daughter with his little portable
DNA test
DNA test
thing. Yeah,
kit, which is this amazing little prop that they got, leading to that incredible sequence where the two of them are sitting there in that church waiting for the results.
yeah.
Um, the
Very.
part,
It's a very Paul Thomas Anderson scene.
oh yeah,
Like,
it's so
yeah.
good. Um, I think maybe the biggest laugh in the movie, in my screenings at least, probably was the bit where she says, she just kind of out of nowhere says, like, "Why is your T-shirt so tight?" And he just loses his mind. It's like, "I'm not a homosexual, if that's what you're implying." And it's just like, whoa, man. It's just like, dang.
Yeah, but to your point, like
Mhm.
he's on such pins and needles about
Yeah.
all of these things,
Hmm.
that like a comment like that like throws him, you know.
Yeah. Um, and I think another just fun little detail of their interactions is the part later where of everyone that she's talked to now, other than her dad, he's the one who actually says, "Actually, your mom was awesome. Don't let anyone tell you different. She was cool. She was she was the greatest." Like, so it's interesting that like all of Perfidia's old allies were saying, "Oh no, she's a rat. She's terrible." But it was Lockjaw that's like, "No, she was great. Don't you ever say anything negative about her." I think that's just an interesting little wrinkle there. But yeah, so it's like after that, that because like he can't even bring himself to do it, that he hires this other guy, and of course that goes terribly because he's asking a guy just like a guy who tells him, "I don't do kids," is like, "Okay, well, what if I pay you to deliver her to people who will?" And that just all it all falls apart because he does not have the courage of his own convictions.
Right.
Not that I think we would be rooting for him to succeed, of course, but it's I think part of what's amazing about Lockjaw as a character are these things like he is working so hard to join this club that is organized around a principle that he does not share. Um, and then he's trying to do this thing that is breaking his own heart,
Right.
but he's going to do it anyway. And then just to jump to the very end, we see him thinking he's getting accepted, and they show him like just like the most banal, ordinary office. It's just the most generic. It's like it's got a window looking out over a parking lot, and he's acting like, "Oh yes,
I made it.
the Golden Kingdom. I've been allowed into Eden." And it's just like it's not even that nice an office, dude. And then of course it's not even real. I feel like it's pretty telegraphed that he's not actually really getting in, that they're going to take him out in some way, but literally poison gas through the air vents is an amazing way for it to happen.
Yes, that's what I was talking about, like the end of like there's just
Mhm.
this like last piece of like dark humor where it's like it's funny but like pretty dark.
Mm.
They gas him like Nazis,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Mhm. Yeah. um so like
I'm gonna turn on another light real quick. You can
sure.
keep talking.
Yeah, so there's so much stuff that's funny through all of that, but then there's a lot of stuff that's like really kind of not funny at all. But then there's a lot of stuff that really kind of straddles that line in a fascinating way. Like, for example, once Bob gets arrested, the whole little scheme to get him out again is actually very funny in the details at the moment, but it's also just insanely touching and moving that Sensei and his other his partners in this plan are just the way that they all play it out, and it's not a big daring explosive rescue mission like the French 75 might have once upon a time, but it's this whole thing was kind of like, oh no, we've just got someone who works at the counter where they're checking everybody in, and she just knows to like, first of all, she knows his real name, so that even though he's giving a made up name, that she can get his attention by subtly saying his real name, or his non immediate fake name, and then do things is like, "Do you have diabetes?" And she's nodding, and he's like, "Oh yeah." It's like, "And did you take your medicine today?" And she's shaking her head. And just this idea that like the way that they get him out is just so gentle
Yep.
compared to that. And I don't think it's this movie's position necessarily to say that that's obviously better and you never need to do the tactics that the French 75 did. but I think it's a recognition that there's not just one way to do these things.
Right.
And then, of course, we also have Sensei with the few small beers.
I love that.
Allowing himself to get arrested with a DUI in order to let Bob get away.
Yep.
But like, I think maybe, I don't know if you have anything else you want to touch on, but we probably have to cover the climax though, with like the river of hills car chase, and then that final moment between Willa and Bob. In that, it's just that's just such an amazing sequence.
Yeah, no, I don't have anything else other than that.
Well, so I mean, let's go ahead and get to that. One of the things that I think was, you know what, I haven't watched it at home, so I guess I don't really know if it does anything with the aspect ratio. But one of the things that was interesting about seeing the movie in IMAX and VistaVision is that the aspect ratio of those screens is tall compared to standard, like a standard widescreen. Like, so it's a more square picture. And that added verticality in that sequence where you're going up and down those hills, I thought was just really amazing. Not to say that it wouldn't look great on a standard widescreen TV also, but I guess I don't, did it, is it just standard like widescreen filling the screen, or does it do anything unusual with the?
It didn't do anything unusual that I can remember. I mean, it's been a while, and I didn't know to look for it either. Yeah.
I will just say that it looked amazing that way. So I think if folks have the opportunity to go see it on an IMAX screen, I think that's a worthwhile way to, thing to do. But yeah, just an amazing sequence. It's just a car chase unlike any I've ever seen before. We got so much stressful stuff going on. Then and Willa is just so clever with the way she stops this guy and being willing to pull the trigger. And I think what's fantastic thematically is the fact that ultimately Bob really doesn't actually rescue her. She rescues herself.
Yeah.
But what he did do is prepare her with the skills that she needed to rescue herself.
Yep.
And then he's there once she does. Like once she's rescued herself, he's there. Yeah. And the amazing little device of their little musical homing devices, creating the little matched melody, is just such a cool idea that sort of feels like it works as a plot device, but also then it just gives us this soundtrack, for this diegetic soundtrack for that moment.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, so good. I love that movie.
It's a really good movie. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that my top 3 movies for the year are this one, Sinners, and Hamnet. And I think personally I put Hamnet number 1, but that's a movie where, sometimes a movie hits you in such a specific way that it feels almost like a sniper shot. So like it just absolutely destroyed me, but I could totally get how it wouldn't necessarily hit everybody else the same way. And I think that is part of why that movie has maybe been a little bit more divisive by comparison. But yeah, I mean, I think I think One Battle After Another deserves all of the nominations it got, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised if it wins a whole bunch of them.
I wouldn't either. It's just such a well done movie. It's it's one of those things where it's like you're okay with the time you spent like watching it, right? Like it wasn't like it was, because there's some movies where you watch them because you just want to, you got to kill some time and you just want to laugh, or you just want to, see romantic comedy or whatever. Sometimes you watch movies because you're like, well, this is good and this is going to be profound and this is going to hit me a certain way. This one is just like, I just, you're just kind of happy with the 3 hours or whatever you spent with it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, it's just, I wasn't escaping. I wasn't looking for any like huge inner meaning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't make some statement on immigration or white supremacy or revolutionaries, right? Like
Yeah. I
there's
mean,
no
it's
like you said, it's clear where it stands,
right.
but it's not trying to convince you of something, right? It's
All
leaning
yeah.
into, yeah, that. Sorry, go
All of
ahead.
that no, I think you're absolutely right because I think all of that stuff is kind of just window dressing to what is ultimately a story about Bob and Willa, right?
Yes, which is where I that was, yeah, actually that was the last thing I wanted to say. Like I thought that was the most powerful thing, and I can't remember exactly where it happened, but it's not a scene between her and Leonardo DiCaprio. There's a scene somewhere else, and it might be with Sensei, I can't remember, where she just like she already knows that Lockjaw is her biological father,
Mhm.
but she just with conviction says, "That's my dad."
Mhm.
And I thought that as a dad, and the biological dad still,
Mhm.
like there's a reminder there that just being the biological father doesn't make you a father.
Mhm.
It makes you genetically the one who produced them, but like there's so much more to being a father.
Mhm.
And sorry.
Yeah.
you know
Oh no, no. I mean, I don't have like the direct personal experience to experience it in in that same way exactly, but it's certainly very emotional. I think the moment you might be thinking of is when she has already killed the hitman, but now Bob is coming up from behind the sign and she sees him and she's still just sort of so freaked out with the adrenaline and everything that's happened that she's yelling at him, "Who are you?" Which
right.
we can come to understand is not necessarily like she literally doesn't understand who the human being she's looking at is, but rather like her whole life has been turned upside down because everything that she thought was true is now, upended. But then what he says is, "I'm your dad."
Yeah, that's right. He's the one that says it. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's the two of them together for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's just it is so moving because it's just this is why you cast Leonardo DiCaprio, right? Like he can
Yeah.
do that. He can make the words are so simple, but like it makes it feel so unambiguously true, regardless of the fact that like I don't he doesn't even know that she has learned anything about Lockjaw. He might
That's
not.
right.
I feel like after having seen it 3 times that he might have a suspicion that he is not Willa's biological father, but does not care.
Right. I think that's all of what I'm reacting to. But
Yeah. Hmm.
and why I think that's important is like like I said, even when you are the biological father, like
Hmm.
I it's that just hits different, right? Like I
Hmm.
mean, I know I'm Bradley's dad. I made Bradley, but like I w- I have to be her dad forever, right?
Hmm.
Like it wasn't a one-time thing,
Yeah.
and it's yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so and it's a really powerful climax. It's a wonderful story, and I agree. I think what we're left with at the end of it is that we had a good time on sort of this whole like adventure to it, but ultimately the movie, while obviously it's taking place in this it's environment which is sort of inherently got some politicized elements about it. Ultimately, what it's about is this story of the girl and her dad. Yeah. It's great.
Yep.
Okay. So,
So on
uh,
a very similar note, we go to Sinners. Oh, yeah.
yeah. So I saw Sinners back when it was originally out in the theater. I've not rewatched it since. I did absolutely love it. I listened to the soundtrack a whole bunch, but it might be fresher for you. Um,
Yeah, I just recently watched this
mm-hmm,
since the nominations came out. I had had it recommended to me, but because it was a vampire movie, like my wife didn't ever want to watch it, and it was
mm,
just like I just kind of put it on the back burner. And then once it got all these nominations, I was like, well, now I'm going to watch it.
mm-hmm.
And then it helped that my sister came into town to visit, and she was like, you absolutely have to watch this movie. I'm willing to watch this movie again with you. And I was like, okay, well, that's a pretty good endorsement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I started, and so the interesting part about watching this movie is it it took me a minute to get into it.
Mm,
And I think that's on purpose, not that they're not trying to bring you in at the beginning, but it's creating this environment through not a lot of things happening, right?
mm-hmm.
Like it's them riding in the car and talking, and it's this old-timey talking, and then they go to the church, and it like there's all these pieces that build an environment, not necessarily part of the story. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they ultimately are part of the story, but they I think they spend a longer period of time like drawing you in.
Yeah, I think especially a lot of people seem to react very differently to that whole opening act depending on how they came to the movie. So like when for you you were coming to the movie thinking this is a vampire movie. And so
Yep.
there's going to be an aspect where you're spending that whole first 45 minutes or so saying so where are the vampires though? Right? Like which is like an understandable reaction coming to the movie like this is a vampire movie. But I've actually also talked to people who didn't know it was a vampire movie and had a very different reaction because they're watching a movie and then vampires show up and they're like, "What?" Yeah, so anyway.
No, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
I even said, so the first night we started to watch it, we started it kind of late and we watched like again, like 30, 45 minutes. And then I had to go to sleep or I fell asleep on the couch, honestly, to be fair.
Mhm.
And I was talking to my sister, I was like, I assume there's gonna be more vampires because I felt like we watched like half the movie and I saw one vampire.
Yeah, like there's just the one sequence where Rennick goes after the white couple that's earlier, right? And then
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. That's the only thing I had seen. I was like,
Mhm. Well, there was like the animated sort of prologue that talked about it a little bit, but yeah, other than that, yeah, it's
yes, but like
nothing for
as
a
far
long
as
time.
like we're actually like defending ourselves against vampires.
Yeah.
And so then I started to like wonder like so because I had a gap between watching the first 45 minutes and then watching the rest of the movie on a different night, I was like and my sister was really good about it. Like, you just watch the movie, like
Hmm.
it'll be fine. And I was like, is this gonna be like Kubo and the Six Strings? Like, do they like get the vampires off by like playing like the music? And she's like, just watch the movie. And I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
yeah. Because it was like it was all about the music and the juke
Mm.
joint and like all of it. Like that's the
Yeah.
whole first part of the movie, like a
So
long part of the movie.
that was the part that surprised me when I went to see it was because I knew that it was gonna be vampires, but uh, I did not expect the music to be such a huge part of both halves of the movie.
Right.
Hmm.
Well, and that's why I think that it's funny that I was like asking about like, have you seen Kubo and the Six Strings,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Where he's like that's like kind of what I felt like was going to happen because
Hmm.
music was so big and it was such a big part of the beginning of the movie. I was like, is music going to be what like saves them or
It's
whatever?
almost
And it turns out
almost the opposite.
it's almost the opposite. Yeah,
Yeah.
like it turns out to just be like guns and old other vampire shit.
Hmm.
Um, but but
Yeah. Well, it's the music draws the vampires, right?
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, the music is why the vampires show up, and like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean it, but yeah, so it took me a minute. Like I wasn't like this sucks, right? But it was like I'm not sure what's happening. And again, it was late, and I was starting to walk, and I fell asleep, right? And then started watching it again, and it I realized, oh, it's literally just environment building.
Mm-hmm.
Like you need to be in this sort of juke joint southern,
Mm-hmm.
you know, musical piece, like to kind of understand how the movie is really going to work,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then it just steps on the gas, right? And when the first three vampires show up, and I love the way it plays with like vampire memes
Mm-hmm.
of like them just like trying to use like their southern hospitality, be like, aren't you gonna invite us in to see
Mm-hmm.
what's going on?
We believe
You
in
know,
equality.
yeah, we believe in equality.
Yeah.
And like I think that honestly, it's not my favorite part of the movie. I don't want to say that, but it was one that really hit me was how well it used you have to be invited in,
Mm-hmm.
and playing off of Southern hospitality,
Yeah.
and like the way that every time that somebody needed to get in, they like expressed it in this like different way. Like it
Mm-hmm.
was it was never just like, can I come in? It was
Mm-hmm.
always just like, we would love to come in and be a part of this if you could
Mm-hmm.
just invite us. And then when, people who had already been in had become vampires, they're showing up and they're like, hey, I'd love to go back and see, so and so, and be like, okay,
Yeah.
well, will you let me go back? Like, man, you've been in and out all day.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Why now do I
Mm-hmm.
have to, you know, and just that play on the meme with the environment, it was fun. And then I mean we can get into this, but like Michael B. Jordan playing, two twins
So
who are, yeah, similar. Go ahead. Yeah.
the joke that I've made it a couple of times to different people is that of course, one of this movie's many nominations, 16, a record, I believe, is Michael B. Jordan as best actor. But I think the joke is, well, do you think it's as Smoke or as Stack? Which one is the nomination for?
And yeah, and I think that's funny, but I think
Oh,
I think the nomination is
speaking
the
of
fact,
surprises, I knew
as you
so.
also probably
Sorry.
believe, it's the nomination is for playing
Oh,
both
of course, yes, of course.
and establishing different personas
Mm-hmm.
for very related people,
Yeah. I think I'm just sort of extra inclined to make a joke about it because talking about things that you do or do not know about the movie going in, I knew Michael B. Jordan was in it. I did not know he was playing twins when I went to go to watch the movie. I'd watched the trailer and somehow not picked up on that, and so yeah,
I was the same.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so I was just like, all of a sudden, I'm seeing the twins, and I was like, oh, okay, all right, double the Michael B. Jordan. I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, so I think yeah, this I don't want to necessarily presume what you did or did not pick up on thematically, but there was something that I hadn't really fully appreciated when I first saw it and had to have kind of explained to me. But there's this whole different, like, metatextual layer going on in this movie.
Uh, Go into more because I'm not sure
So
that I do know
there's a
this.
metaphor for how the vampires work here, and like the specific lore of the way vampires are here is there's an aspect where they kind of represent cultural assimilation and appropriation,
Mm,
right? because the vampires can't make their own music anymore. That's why they're drawn to it, and they want new music because they're stuck with only what they've got already. And so they want to bring more into it. So they hear this amazing like blues music and want it for their own. And so
I
that's why they're bringing everybody in. And then there's also just like part of the reason that, these three white people coming in to this, like the whole kind of point of the juke joint is like, well, we're not even welcome in all of the white establishments, so let's make one of our own that's just for us. And now the white people show up and want to be in that one too, right? And so there's that piece of it too that kind of runs through the whole thing.
Yeah, so I to your point, I think I land somewhere in between in
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't overtly recognize that and say
Mm-hmm.
like this is a theme, but I definitely felt that,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, and like I'm not trying to pretend that I fully appreciated that element either. I was read up an essay about the movie after seeing it that I was like, oh wow, yeah, I didn't even really grasp that when I was watching it the first time, but it deepens the whole thing. In fact, actually, there were several things about the movie that had bugged me a little bit until I had that sort of explanation, and it's like, oh, that's why it happened like that, is because it's playing with that theme instead of just this straight up plot. Like, for example, the music that Rennick, the lead vampire here, has is like he's got all of this Irish folk music, right?
Hmm.
But the idea here is it's kind of like, well, it's because the Irish were once considered like a hated minority too, but then they kind of got assimilated into whiteness, right? So that's an example of the music that the vampire hive mind has already.
That, yeah, that I definitely hadn't thought of. That makes sense. I thought that played humorously,
I mean,
but yeah.
I really liked a lot of those songs.
Yes, it was,
Yeah.
yes.
I mean that this the soundtrack for this movie is amazing. Obviously, it's nominated for best score, um, and best original song for "I Lied to You," which is the sequence where we have like it's such an amazing sequence because they give us the little animated prologue at the beginning that says, that some people have this sort of magic they can do with music that thins the veil and makes it so like ancestors can come through from all different times and visit and celebrate and so on. And then the way we see that expressed is, he's playing this song, and then all of a sudden, as we get this long shot painting throughout, we start getting like old fashioned historical musicians and then more modern musicians all kind of coming and going in and out of the the song and that whole sequence. And then of course
Yep.
that's the performance that draws the vampires near. And so like that's a great song. Like this is an amazing soundtrack. So like I saw the movie once and then listened to the soundtrack like 25 times. Um, but yeah, so in any case, I think that I wanted to just bring up that layer because it really like kind of learning about it and then started to, to see it there where I hadn't before really deepened my appreciation for the movie.
Makes sense. I gotta let the dogs out real
Okay,
quick. So you wanna?
sure.
Oh, awesome.
So I'll just go ahead and read the nominations that Sinners has got. So it was nominated for Best Picture, of course, Best Director from Ryan Coogler, Best Actor Michael B. Jordan, Delroy Lindo as Best Supporting Actor, Wunmi Mosaku as Best Supporting Actress, Ryan Coogler for Best Original Screenplay. Scrolling down, Best Original Score from composer Chris Bowers. Best Original Song, I Lied to You, as we were just talking about. Best production design, best cinematography, best costume design, best makeup and hairstyling, best sound, best visual effects, best film editing, and best film casting. So that's 16 nominations, which, if I'm not mistaken, is not only a record, but it beat the previous record by a couple. It has one extra bonus compared to previous records because, of course, best casting is a new category this year.
Yes.
So, previous record holders didn't have access to that one. But in any case, still, I think that was part of the whole thing, is that it would have broken the record even without that. One of the things, this kind of jumps to the ending, but I'm bringing it up only now just because of the sort of this thematic reading of it, is that I remember when I saw the movie feeling like it got to this point where we had the whole big climax, and then we watch our hero, leaving town to be a musician despite the over the protests of his preacher father, right? And then we cut to him as now an old man blues musician, still playing the guitar and having lived, his dream of being a musician. And I thought, it's like, all right, we got the perfect ending. And then the movie just keeps going. And we have the whole sequence where we have some of the other characters that had been turned as a vampire, but then didn't die, and now are vampires, but kind of freed from that original hive mind, Rennick's hive mind. And so now they're living as vampires. And so they come and they basically ask him, we could turn you if you wanted. You wouldn't have to grow old and die, but he doesn't want it. And I was sort of feeling like I don't dislike the scene exactly, except it just sort of feels extra on top of what already felt like the perfect ending. I don't know that we needed to have actually this actual conversation happening. I sort of felt like it was implied. But what I realized, that with this extra thematic meaning, there's an element to which you want to sort of acknowledge the people who, in some respects, have maybe sold out, right? And to recognize that, even if that's not what you want to do, you don't necessarily see them entirely as villains either.
Right.
And to sort of have that piece of the metaphor, I think, adds value, even though I sort of felt like the scene was just sort of extra otherwise.
Yeah, that's an interesting take on it, but
I don't
I
want to.
get,
Go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
I don't know, I get how you got there.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that end scene as just because it is, I think it bookends kind of what I was feeling at the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is like, this is a vampire movie. Where are the vampires?
Mm-hmm.
Right? To, oh, hey, we've moved past the vampire attack,
Mm-hmm.
and these vampires made these deals, and they're around. They could still be around, right? Which I think is part of what the metaphor is trying to say,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Is it didn't go away. You can't
Right.
defeat it, or you can defeat it, but they didn't
Mm-hmm.
they didn't obliterate the vampires. They made a peace with them
Mm-hmm.
that they're now
Well,
still.
yeah, they obliterated some of them, but yeah,
They obliterated some of them for
there's some
sure,
remain. Yeah.
but some remain, and
Mm-hmm.
they had made deals with some of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was an interesting, because again, it does talk about going back, take out the metaphor, but go back to its play on the vampire legend and lore in and of itself. The immortality is one of them, right? We already talked about the having to be invited in, how I loved how it played with that.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't really play with the immortality, but it brings it back in to
Mm-hmm.
contrast,
Sure.
right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because it's well, here's somebody who was this age at the time you were this age, and now they are older
Mm-hmm.
and more established, and you are still this age, and they're okay with
Mm-hmm.
having like gone through life. Like there's not the attraction of immortality
Mm-hmm.
is lost on them because they love what they do and they love their music and they love
Mm-hmm.
all this. That's how I took that.
Yeah, I think that like all of that played for me, and I don't want to say like I didn't mean to suggest that I thought it was a bad scene. It
No.
was almost more just like if you're listening to a song, there's that like sometimes there's just that perfect end where it's like dun 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 dun, and then it keeps going for a little bit. You know what I mean? Like it would just that's kind of all it felt like to me. I sort of felt like all of that was implied just by seeing him as this older musician without having to have a whole conversation with them. But but
Oh,
I
yeah.
I
Okay, that makes more. Yeah, that okay. I get you there.
yeah,
Okay, like not having to like draw
right.
the fact that it existed. It was the length of it that was like kind of okay. Makes sense. Yeah.
But I think what does work and so about the scene, like I think it's a well done scene, and I think that when you have kind of like the extra layers on it, and there's a what it does is it makes the although I'm forgetting our main hero's name.
The kid
Yeah,
or
the kid. You know
the kid was Sammy.
Sammy. Yeah. Okay. So I just like I said, I saw it back in like March or something.
No, that's okay. Yeah.
But the so what we do have is his perspective of he has chosen to not go the vampire path, right? And we are with him in that. And if we're on the movie side, we feel like that was the right choice. But I think that there is an element to which having this scene happen reframes that a little bit instead of just saying it is the right choice. It is instead, it was the right choice for Sammy. But that does not mean people who made a different choice are villains or evil necessarily.
Yeah. Okay.
Or at
That's
least
it.
that there's some nuance there. So it's not like he made the right choice to save his soul, everybody else is damned or a monster, right? Like so we can see this element of like he does not feel like he needs to do something about these vampires that are still around, right? They care about each other mutually. Even though Sammy is not willing to take the offer and become a vampire himself, he has made the choice for himself. Neither is he casting judgment at them to suggest they, well, plot wise, we know that like it's not like they had a choice about it, about being a vampire. But the idea, though, this is where like the metaphor of it layers in a little bit more, and it explains some of what happens in a way that the narrative itself doesn't necessarily fully get there. Which is the idea of what they kind of represent are the people who kind of are willing to go ahead and assimilate into the rest of the generic culture and not try to maintain that core of what they were before.
Right.
Right. And it's this idea of you can decide that you don't want to do that, but it doesn't mean you hate the people who did.
I
And so,
love
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, this movie is great. I think it's just super fun. All of the music is so fun. Um, I have kind of a suspicion that even though it got the most number of nominations, I have kind of my inclination is to think that it's not going to end up winning most of those. I think a lot of those nominations are going to go to other things. And that's not necessarily me saying that's what should happen as much as just my guess.
I feel that way as well because I think it's almost like the blessing and the curse of having that many nominations
Mm-hmm.
is you've just done so many things so well that all
Mm-hmm.
aggregate together, but yet you're going to look at another movie where maybe everything didn't come together, but
Mm-hmm.
like this one part of it stood out,
Yeah.
and that's what wins the nomination.
It's also got working against it that it came out very early in the year,
Yep.
which often hurts a movie's chances for Oscars. And I think that there's also maybe there can be a little bit of genre bias where it got all of the nominations, but there's going to be some people who are think it's like it was it it's a mark of respect that we gave it so many nominations. That doesn't mean it gets to win. You know what I mean? And this is not like um it's not like anyone is like demeaning it, but it's more like I think there might be a sense that it got so many nominations and that's great and that is its reward, as opposed to thinking it's going to sweep. But I don't know, maybe it will. But I just sort of feel like it's yeah, I that's kind of my guess is that it will not sweep all of the awards that it was nominated for.
Yeah, that's my feeling too, because like you and this kind of illustrates my point, right? Like you
Mm-hmm.
take Michael B. Jordan, who did a phenomenal job, right?
Mm-hmm.
He played two characters to the point that like you if you didn't know they were both him, like you could almost be like, "Oh, are there twins in
Mm-hmm.
this movie?" I but Leonardo DiCaprio from our movie before playing so against type and just carrying a movie,
Mm-hmm.
you know, not that he carried it. I guess that's not the right word, but like the most impactful parts of the movie are his interactions
Mm-hmm.
with his daughter, right? We talked
Right.
about this. Those just they just rise above and when
Mm-hmm.
you're voting, right?
Yeah.
And
I mean,
you just look
yeah.
into
I
some of these other things, like I mean, even if you get into the like
Best actor is a huge. Well, oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
best
that's your spot.
sound, I mean, we're gonna get into this next time, but like, I mean, F1's not a perfect movie, but like, as far as like a audio visual constructed movie, pretty
Mm-hmm.
damn good. You
So
know?
F1 is the Best Picture nominee that surprised a lot of people who forecast these things, just because it was sort of like, I mean, it made a buttload of money for sure, but also it was just kind of like, yeah, people liked it, but Best Picture. But some of the theorizing I saw was that because the way Oscar nominations work is that for things like costume design or sound or whatever, the people who vote on that are people who work in those industries, like who work in sound, for example.
Right.
Um, but everybody votes for Best Picture. And so the theorizing was it got Best Picture just because all of the people who loved it that much for all of the craft stuff, like the visual effects and sound and so on, just they liked it so much that ended up getting it into Best Picture. Which is not to say, I mean, like I think I would. I've seen all 10. I would probably put it at 10 of that list, but I think it's a good movie. I liked it.
It's fun,
Yeah.
and it's fun because it's got badass visuals and sounds, right? Which we'll
Yeah,
get into that. But
that's what I was going to say is
yeah,
like the plot is very by the numbers sports movie stuff, but it's got a charming cast and the what really just makes it rise above is just like all the race sequences are just very cool.
yes,
I mean,
this is
we'll maybe talk more about it because that we've both
no, we
seen that
will.
one.
But
But yeah.
so to go back to Sinners, I
Mhm.
think when you were talking earlier about the addition of the best casting,
Mhm.
like this is a place where maybe it can come in, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I, I haven't
Uh,
seen all the movies in here.
yeah.
One
Well,
battle after another could definitely make a play for this,
that it's
but
a
they
tough
also,
category because
yeah,
like the yeah.
one battle after another also picked like, yes, they cast against type, but they
Mhm.
picked really good people, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody in there is pretty well known,
I mean,
and
it's a good ensemble, and everybody's doing their part for sure.
yeah. But this movie, like with Sinners, you know, to pick B. Jordan, to pick the kid, to pick the bad vampires,
Yeah,
and
Jack
they're using
O'Connell played
a
Rennick.
lot of lesser known people too, right? Like outside of Michael B. Jordan.
Hmm.
So they're stretching Michael B. Jordan and they're taking lesser known people and making them like kind of elevated. Although I guess one
You
battle
got
after another
Haley
does that too.
Stenfield in there. Delroy
Yeah.
Lindo is also nominated for uh, best supporting actor. But like I read her name a moment ago. Um, where was it? For Wunmi Mosaku.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know her from anything before that as best supporting actress.
Well, it'll be an interesting
Mm,
category, but
yeah.
we can leave it at
Yeah.
that.
Well, yeah. So there's a. I think there's a lot of really strong categories this year. You know, like we went back to Michael B. Jordan as best actor, and it's like I love Michael B. Jordan. I love him in this movie. I think he's great, but this is a stacked, pun not intended, category this year because of course we just talked about Leonardo DiCaprio, but also like I mean Timothy Chalamet has been great in a lot of things. He's very, very good in Marty Supreme.
Oh, yeah,
Ethan
he's
Hawke
always
is
good.
incredible in Blue Moon. And Wagner Moura in The Secret Agent, that's the most recent one that I've seen. Like, I spent most of the movie sort of feeling like this is not a very showy role. I'm a little bit surprised that this was nominated for Best Actor because it's, like he's a likable guy, but like he's not necessarily doing the roller coaster theatrics that you sometimes would assume are part of what go into a nomination like this. But then I did just realize that by the time the movie was over, I was like, this guy's a movie star for sure. And so, like, I would say, even though the role is not necessarily the most showy, like, I don't know which part you'd pick as the clip necessarily, but I definitely came out of the movie thinking, this guy's great. I want to see him in more stuff.
Nice.
He's not going to win, I don't think. It's one of those where it's kind of like he's kind of an out of nowhere. He gets the nomination, and that's the reward for him. You know what I mean? But I mean, all the other four, I would say, all four of those, I like. I wouldn't hate any of those winning because I think they're all incredible. I was just extra primed to like Ethan Hawke too because one of the movies we were gonna watch was before before Sunset, which is the second of that series. But then I did actually also watch the others, so I was just like I was in a watching Ethan Hawke in a Richard Linklater movie mode. Um, but yeah, so in any case, anything else you want to say about Sinners?
No, I would just say like, yeah, I mean, go into it with a an open mind that it's more than just a normal vampire movie. I know
Mm-hmm.
that it's billed that way, like it was brought to me that way, but like it still took me a minute to get there.
Mm-hmm.
But once you kind of just settle in to the
Mm-hmm.
vibe,
It's as much a
it's
musical as a vampire movie.
it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
So
Uh, okay, great. So, looking ahead, the movies that we've both seen that we haven't touched on yet that we'll be talking about on a future episode include F1, Elio, and Weapons. But then, of course, I'm sure we'll both be seeing more movies and we'll figure out which other ones we want to talk about. So, we already talked about K-pop Demon Hunters as a priority. Do you have K-pop Demon Hunters in Zootopia 2? Are there others that you are like looking for as a like
Hamnet
yeah?
and Frankenstein.
Hmm. Those are both good choices.
Yes.
Hamnet, certainly, I think if people don't know anything about it, I will just say sad. It's a sad movie, but it is, in the dynamic that we've occasionally talked about on this show, the axis between beautiful sad and ugly sad. I would say it's very much on the beautiful sad side, and I found it ultimately sort of very affirming by the end, even though sad things happen in it. I found it incredible. So like it just became my number one for that reason. Um, I would also, yeah. Okay, I think those are good choices. Um, of the ones that I haven't seen yet, the only one that I haven't seen yet that has more than one nomination is Sirat, which I may be able to find in theaters now. It's one of the foreign language films. Best international feature, and then I don't remember what the other one is now that I'm thinking about it. Let's see. Oh, it's also nominated for Best Sound. And I have the vague impression that it's about like weird Burning Man style concerts that happen in the Spanish desert, I think. But we will see. But I'm also interested in seeing some of the other animated ones that I haven't seen yet, including Arco and a movie called Little Amelie or The Character of Rain.
Yes.
All right, so I think that'll probably do it for this time. Thank you, everybody, for listening and or watching. And until we return, watch good movies.
Watch good movies.